It's always important to recognize the personal biases in our lives, being critically aware of who we are and how we make decisions. We really underestimate the dangers of having a personal bias, whether it's out of the background that we brought up, cultures, religion, faith, friendship, experiences. At the end of the day, each and every one of these factors does make us make a conclusion, even to override something that we can clearly see. So you can find where we are right now in a time where people are exposing things, right? And they'll expose things that are going on in whichever context you look at it. However, when the same person, let's say it's like there are two opponents, one person will be critically, data and everything has been put. But on the next person, it comes the next person looking at that type of information. Someone say, no, leave those ones alone. They'll justify one over the other. Then you ask yourself, then, what is the whole context of doing all that level of research and with all that level of exposure? If you're just going to choose one over the other, why not put everyone on the same pedestal of your judgment and then decide? We see this with families. A parent will choose one child over another, either because of maybe their beauty, their stature, their loyalty, whatever it may be. However, the one whom they're looking down on or think they have no potential actually ends up having more greater potential in life. But because they were never given the chance or opportunities and they were pushed back into being a black sheep or into being an outcast, that black sheep has more kindness, has more love, is more authentic in their way of thinking. But because they're not loyal to this parent's way of reasoning and accepting every feel that that parent feels comfortable with, the black sheep, because they stand up for the truth, they are put aside. But when life happens and things happen, it's the black sheep who was put aside who ends up becoming the one who's more important. Then the parent's personal bias has already predetermined their conclusion or their judgment. So eventually the parent starts feeling ashamed. And not many of them will even acknowledge it. Some of them will rather suffer under the one who they had made a wrong judgment than take the bitter pill and accept their ego and their pride led them astray. And what happens is you end up dividing a home. If you look at, like in scripture, you look at Isaac, when you looked at Esau and Jacob, despite him knowing that Jacob was the one who was the chosen one, in his personal bias, he chose Esau, whom he wanted to give all the blessings that Jacob was imparted on. But you see, everything went against him eventually, and the tables were turned. The thing is, we take these things lightly, but people forget one thing. As much as you can be an adult, whether in your 60s, 70s, 80s, the things that were done to you when you are 2 years, 3 years, 4 years live with you. Some people are so good at their work, not because originally that's who they are, but because they went through some very painful things, or either they witnessed, or either they once had an opportunity and they messed up and they say, if I get one more chance, I will never mess it up. Some people are faithful in relationships and someone will think, this person, no, maybe they dated someone who really messed them up and they say they just had enough and they found someone who just fit in and they were able to grow. Or maybe there were once people who really messed up and then got that one more chance to get it right and they grabbed it and they made it right. If you look at how people look at politics, there will, there'll be many parties. Let's say there are 2 or 3, 4 parties, and people will, each person will try to contradict the other party, and all these things will be done. But they are not put on the same pedestal of judgment so that you can put them together and can say, okay, ABC, there's no proper merit. And eventually you end up choosing the wrong person because of a personal bias, and then you justify the wrong person because you say, no, they believe in 1, 2, 3. But the fact is, a politician is a politician. A politician equals to lies. And if there's those who are true, well, maybe it's less than 0.5 whatever percentage. But 3/4 of them, they all have an angle. Any politician who comes into power, we keep forgetting that the amount of money that politicians use in their campaigns does never tallies with the amount of money that they're supposed to get as their salaries or benefits when they get into power. The math never maths. The ratio is never equal. It is a higher ratio when it comes to the campaign and versus a low ratio on what comes to the actual money. So you ask yourself, if they're earning less in power, but they were using a lot of money in campaign, how are they going to sustain the X amount they took from the campaigners? Then you start noticing the types of policies they pass, the lobby groups they support, and then where do their families work? You start to have to look at such things, and then you realize all along they already paid the piper. So now they're singing to the tune of the piper. Whatever the piper says, that's what they do. And eventually you come to realize, wait a minute, we were played from day one, because most politicians are selected, they're not elected. And those are the realities. But again, we live in a time where everybody wants to fight. So we look at, again, personal bias in terms of gender. You'll say, for example, all men, for example, you hear something like, all men are irresponsible and ABCD. It could have a higher number that could validate well with enough evidence. But does it mean there are not women who are worse, more, what do we say? They're irresponsible more, even taking care of children and everything. There's there. But when you have a personal bias, you're not looking at everything. You are looking at either an experience or what you've had or what people say, but you don't go into the nitty-gritties and realize we are judging a wrong person for standing up and raising up a family, and you're assuming she's the better one, but all along she was wrong, he was right. And even the table switch, you can say that a man is, let's say the woman is very faithful and the man is always going out of the relationship or marriage, and then you are justifying the ladies because the lady has someone on the side. Maybe she doesn't have any of that stuff. Maybe she's just faithful and has seen the damages that happen when people go out there. Maybe she has ever had her own personal experience, or she's witnessed, or she has witnessed it and she said, I will never, no matter what happens, I will stick to my guns. So what happens is, in society, we keep putting pressure on people because they choose to not agree with something that you are pushing. And you don't want to give them the time to think for themselves. You want them to think on terms of what you want. Hence, you become so, your bias ends up moving even into, you start stereotyping people and saying, these people are like this race is like this tribe is like this ethnicity is like this religion is like this. But the truth of the matter is, your own people will dig you 6 feet under if they get the chance. How many people have given their money to their own family members who ended up screwing them? We complain about employment in some areas and say these people are not employed or ABCD. And then the people whom you've given that opportunity, instead of doing their work, they come and say, it's my right, I can choose not to do, I can do ABCD. And then another person comes from somewhere very humble, they don't have much, but they do the job well. And then you realize, wait a minute. Why are people more comfortable working that part? And people tell you, because this one is doing the job. This other person is wasting my time. We even see this in the race battles. One race says, this race is bad, but you realize their employees and their lawyers are one race. You're thinking, if you're complaining every race is bad, how comes the people who work with you and for you are of the race that you are quote unquote fighting against? Then realize it's easy for people to speak and say whatever they say, unless there's someone or there's a reason as to why they get properly, research done on them. Then you realize, sometimes you'll even see within the faith institution where people are exposing those who are doing wicked. But sometimes you have to look back and ask yourself, I agree, all the information is true. But is it possible that this person is doing most of this stuff because either they desire to be where that other person is, but they can't, or they have seen the damage of those people have done, or they just enjoy to see one person fall and feel like I did it. So it's very important to be aware and critical about and being honest with ourselves. Are we who we really say we are, or are we a reflection of what we are hiding? Because when we choose not to be honest with ourselves, we take up this layer of lies and we keep piling it up and we keep looking for justification. But at the end of the day, the truth will remain the truth and a lie will remain a lie. No matter how much color you will put on a donkey and make it look like a zebra, the donkey will remain to be a donkey and a zebra will remain to be a zebra. That's the reality. You can paint it, you can do anything. No matter how much you can clean up a swine. When you say this pig, I'm going to take care of this pig, I will wash it, I will perfume it, I will cleanse it, when the pig or the swine will see dirty water, it will run, jump, and roll over. It is very happy. The thing is, what you value does not mean the other person values. And when you choose to make a judgment on something without looking at it fairly, without looking at all other situations and circumstances, without being very honest with yourselves, you are no different from what you are speaking against. Because many other times, we want to pretend everything is okay. We want to pretend that we agree to something, but we know deep down we are on the wrong. And very few people are comfortable enough to let their ego down and accept they honestly made a lapse of judgment. And that's why we should be very aware of the personal biases in how we conduct our lives. Because whether it is out of the backgrounds we've been raised, whether it's out of the cultures and communities that have been around us, whether it's the environments to which we've been part of, whether it's our belief system or our faith or religion or institutions, at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, if you are not careful, you will make a lapse of judgment and judging harshly an individual or a community when all along the problem was right where you are. There are many people who have destroyed communities and families because they themselves messed up. And then when people ask them, how did you end up here? They try and now play the victim card. And innocent people end up getting caught up in a war they had no idea. And many years later, either out of the confession of that person or someone does good investigation, the truth comes out. And even if they try to rectify the wrong, the damage has been done. And it is hard to get things right from that point. That's why we should be very careful with every information we receive, with how we handle everything around us. Just because it sounds right, just because it feels right, do your own due diligence. Do your own thorough and complete investigation. Ensure you can validate everything you hear, you see, and every record, and then sit back and make a wise decision. Discern, because we are in a time whereby many people are shouting, but who says what they are shouting is right? Many people are busy working, but who says they're getting the job right? At the end of the day, we should be very careful that our personal biases do not become the reason as to why we are stuck or someone else gets stuck because we think we know what is going on. Joseph in scripture, because of the bias of Potiphar's wife, ended up 11 years locked up. 2 years locked. 11 years was him under Potiphar's house. 2 years locked up. He did no wrong and ended up becoming someone very powerful. You can imagine how Potiphar's wife now seeing the person whom she had accused 2 years prior was now her own boss over her husband. The thing is, whatever you do to someone, it sticks with them. How you treat someone, it sticks with them. They may not be able to, at that point, act on it. They may not be at a point in that time to avenge. They may not be in that time ready to to do anything that you've done to them. But people don't forget. And they may not be the one to directly deal with you. They can pass it over. When David could not deal with his enemies, he told his son, King Solomon, all his enemies, what they did, how they did it, and where they did it. And when King Solomon took power, he dealt with each and every one of them. And if he had not dealt with them, they could have been the reason of his downfall even before he started his journey as a king. The thing is, whatever you do to someone, just know that that debt has not been settled, because that debt will be given to another debt collector. That means if you hurt or talk or harsh words upon an individual, that person will go share it to a friend or a family member or their children or their spouses. They, after releasing that information, they have moved on and have now put you in a pedestal of, these are the kind of character you are. But their spouse or their children or friends or people around them will pick now this information, and then they'll become the debt collector. And they will make sure, they will never tell the owner of the debt what happened. You see, debt collectors never tell the people who have sent them what they actually do. They just tell them we'll get the job done. They don't say the magnitude of what they will do. And you may go around hurting people. You may go around destroying people's names. You may go around crushing people's destinies. One day, there'll be a debt collector. That debt collector will not spare you, not an inch, not a centimeter, not a meter, not a nothing. They will make sure you not only pay, they will drag you, they will deal with you. But when that thing is happening, whoever was owed the debt has no information. And should they have no power to deal with it. Be very careful how your personal bias will end up impacting you and those around you. Sometimes it's good to just shut up. Yes, sometimes it's good to just be silent. It does not mean you've not made a decision. Even in your silence, you've made a decision saying, hey, I'm not really sure how this goes down. So allow me to take 2 steps back and not indulge. Yes, you are told, make a quick decision. Let me think about it. And take your time to think about it. Don't rush into making decisions. Don't rush into going places. People have been poisoned because someone messed up someone's life and they went and dined with them, with the person and they assumed nothing will happen. And the people who joined in eating and drinking ended up being poisoned. Because this one person, people have destroyed relationships, have destroyed partnerships, have destroyed communities. And they went back thinking things were the same. And the people who joined in with them thinking, oh, everything is calmed down, ended up becoming victims of the choices of this one individual, what they did. Your personal bias can build you or destroy you. Your personal bias can give you enemies that will live for generations. We are witnessing this in real time. Some of these wars we think, why are they the way they are? Some of them are things that are so deeply rooted because one person made a decision against another person and it has become a family war for generations. The war between Jacob and Esau never left their bloodline. It continued even after. We should be very careful of how we conduct ourselves, how we indulge ourselves, the things we say, how we say, where we say, and to whom you say. You may look at a child who is very young, 2 years, 3 years, and utter some words thinking, this is just a child. That child will grow up to be a man or a woman, very mature. Those words you use, they'll never forget. Many people are professionals in the fields and careers you see them in. Not because they were good at it in the beginning, but they were words they were told that were painful. They witnessed what their parents endured because of their relatives. They were put down by their bosses and their supervisors, and they made a vow and said, never again. And so you witness to see an individual, a mature man or a mature lady, well put out, and you're thinking, wow, these people had it. No, they don't. Deep down, they cry when no one is watching. Because You may go around breaking hearts and thinking nothing happened to me. That person who broke that heart, you will meet again. But in their context that you will wish you can hide yourself. Be very careful with how you live your life. Be very careful with how you treat people, because your personal bias can put you in so much trouble that no one can be able to save you. It is easy to speak, to shout, and to say things because you feel entitled. You can justify one person's wrong because they are your people. Even the Benjamites justified the wrongs of their fellow Benjamites until the whole 11 tribe came raining fire on them. The thing is, if you see something is off and you know it's off, call it what it is. Don't try and justify a wrong and thinking, you know what, it's okay. Do not justify someone's evil because you are of the same race, community, or whatever it is. If they have done evil, let them get the punishment or the consequences that they're supposed to bear. But never think you're too smart. Your actions, your decisions, your words, your thoughts, how you say it, where you say it, when you say it, to whom you say it to, they are never forgotten. Our words are fire. Our words destroy. You can watch a clip of just 1 minute and it will change your life in a blink of an eye. And the same information someone was giving you means nothing, but a different person gives you, or you hear it, and it changes your life. We are mankind. We shift like a chameleon depending on the environments to which we are under. We're only loyal to ourselves. Be very careful how you conduct yourself and how you conduct around other people. Our words are fire. Our actions are judgments against us if we are not careful how we conduct ourselves. So your personal bias, be very careful with it. Be able to look inwards and ask yourself, when I uttered these words, when I made these decisions, when I did these things I did, was I favoring an action that was wrong, or was I doing the right thing? If you cannot answer, if you cannot be honest with yourself, then maybe the problem started with you. Be very careful, because when you're given a place of power, you just amplify. Social media amplifies our inner thoughts, our intrusive thoughts, our hearts, the real part of us. It just amplifies it, because the thing was already there. A politician amplifies their corruption and the execution of those who stand against them. When you give them power, they just amplify. It is who they have been. Some people say, oh, this person had money and change. No, they just never had money in the beginning. When they got the money, they amplified. So the thing you should always remember, we amplify once we get what we are looking for. Some people amplify their true characters when they get married. Before they got married, they accepted all the games you are playing. Oh, yeah. And then you get married. Then they tell you, if you are a man or a woman, leave that door. And they're thinking, hey, but this person was passionate, because people amplify once they get what they're looking for. And it's different. Some is power. Some is money. Some is being accepted by people. Some is marriage. Some is faith. Some is religion. It really doesn't matter. We are all very different with what is our trigger for amplification. So once we get it, we are all different. But the truth of the matter is, be very careful. Because if your action will lead to someone amplifying something against you, only God will save you from whatever plan and scheme that person has against you. May God help us all. May we discern. May we use our tongue, our thoughts, and our positions wisely. Because what looks small is never small. A little seed gives us a beautiful tree. Be very careful with your words that you utter. A small hole in a boat brings the whole boat to the ground. Let's be very careful with words we utter, how we conduct ourselves. It might look innocent now, but in future, it will be the detriment of your own future. May God help us all.